It is shaping up to be the year's largest IPO. SoftBank's chipmaker ARM confidentially filing to go public today. That's the focus of today's Tech Check with Deirdre Bosa. Hey, Dee.
Carl, so it's been a long road back to public markets for ARM. To refresh your memories, SoftBank bought it back in 2016 for $32 billion. NVIDIA tried to buy it for $40 billion, ultimately shot down by regulators. SoftBank's massive son, he then devoted himself entirely to get this thing listed as his company struggles under falling private tech valuations. And so here we are, confidential filing that lets SoftBank and ARM gauge interest before an actual debut and figure out where valuation lands. Now, between 30 and $70 billion has been reported, and that is a huge range that reflects the uncertainties in the broader markets and an IPO market that has essentially been dead for the last year. ARM would be the biggest debut not only in that time frame, but over the last decade as well. If it raises between $8 and $10 billion, it lands somewhere between an Uber and Rivian-sized fundraise. Those were some of the biggest of the last decade. Now, ARM, along with a few other key names, breathe some life into this listings market. And if they go well, they could open the floodgates for more to follow. There's Kenvue, a consumer health spinoff from J&J that's expected to list at the end of this week and raise more than $3 billion. $3 billion, by the way, that is more than the combined total of new IPOs so far this year. There's also Instacart, a rare non-spinoff or corporate carve-out. It could follow. It's been looking for the right conditions to go public. It filed confidentially last year and then withdrew that filing. So ARM and Kenvue could pave the way for them, and then others like Stripe and other private companies that have been private for a very long time. For investors more broadly, a revived IPO market, that could be seen as an endorsement for the health of the rally that we've seen this year, especially in tech. Carl and Sarah, I was just looking at Mobileye. That was another recent IPO, a big one, and maybe encouraging for the market. IPO'd at $21 a share. It's trading at 36, so those gains have been sustainable.
Yeah, interesting, too, given what they said about some of the EV markets in China in the last couple of days. I guess the bigger question would be, you know, a lot of you mentioned Instacart and Kenvue, and there's been talk about some restaurants. I mean, which sectors would lead any kind of revival in IPO since we are down 22% on the year?
Yeah, it's a great question. And over the last few years, right, it's been a lot of tech IPOs, and those are the ones that have suffered as well. You know, the IPO class of 2021, when we saw a lot of the high-flying names in fintech and enterprise software, and, you know, those gains have not been sustainable, and that's really what scared off, you know, a lot of tech companies from going public. So if we see that revive, I think in a big way, that could revive that IPO market and open the window for others. Yeah.